Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. This time, we're taking a look at something pretty remarkable, um, how quinoa can actually thrive in these salty soils.
Yeah, it is fascinating, right? Especially considering that soil salinity is this growing problem in agriculture globally.
Mm.
It's almost like the ground itself is becoming less fertile.
Exactly, and that's why I think this research from Frontiers in Plant Science is so important. I mean, it really digs into the specifics of how two quinoa varieties, Pasto and Celerio, how they handle the stress of salt.
Hmm.
They've got these totally different approaches.
Yeah,
It's like two athletes training for the same marathon, but with completely different regimens.
that's a great analogy. Yeah, the researchers use some really cool technology to track these differences. I mean, like a plant array, which can monitor the growth and water use in real time.
So what makes this plant array system so special?
Um, so imagine like a super sensitive scale
Okay.
that can measure like the tiniest changes in a plant's weight.
Wow.
It's constantly tracking how much water each plant is losing through transpiration.
Okay.
It's really a game changer for understanding plant responses to stress.
So it's like instead of just seeing the end result, you can literally see the plant like coping in real time.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what kind of insights did this give them, this real-time data?
Well, so they looked at two different varieties of quinoa,
Okay.
Pasto and Celerio,
Okay.
and they have differing salt tolerance.
Okay.
And what they found was that when exposed to these salty conditions, both varieties saw a reduction in their biomass,
Okay.
essentially how much they weighed.
Uh-huh.
However, Celerio proved to be more resilient overall.
Okay, so like the quinoa warrior.
Exactly.
So how did this plant array data help them unpack what was happening under the surface?
Well, it revealed two distinct survival strategies.
Interesting.
So Pasto took the conservative route, shrinking its leaf size to conserve water. So think of it as like reducing its surface area
Yeah.
to minimize how much water is lost.
Like hunker down and wait it out.
Exactly, yeah.
Smart.
Yeah, very classic.
Did Celerio take a similar approach?
Not at all. Celerio was much more proactive.
Okay.
So it kept its leaves large,
Mm-hmm.
but it very carefully controlled its stomata. So almost like it was fine-tuning its breathing to stay hydrated.
Oh, wow. So it was like adapt and overcome.
Exactly.
So what else did this plant array data tell them about how these plants were coping?
So they found that both types of quinoa actually became more water use efficient
Right.
under salt stress.
Interesting.
But Celerio stood out because it maintained a higher water use efficiency than Pasto,
Okay.
or WUE, meaning that for every drop of water it used, it was able to produce more biomass,
Okay.
even in those tough, salty conditions.
Wow.
So
So
plant-
Celerio is like the efficiency champion here.
Yeah, you could say that.
But how did they know that the plant array was actually giving them good information about the stomata? Those things are tiny.
They are really small, but
Yeah.
the planetary system is remarkably precise.
Okay.
And so to double check its accuracy, they compared the plant array's calculations of stomatal conductance
Okay.
with measurements from a handheld device,
Okay.
and the results matched up beautifully. So it really confirmed the plant array's reliability. I feel like we're only scratching the surface of what the study uncovered, though.
We are. There are a lot more really cool insights
Yeah.
about how these two quinoa varieties allocate their resources under stress. They've got these different budgeting philosophies when,
Right.
when they're faced with these tough times.
Yeah, so how does this resource allocation, come into play here?
Well, a plant, right? It only has a finite amount of energy and nutrients.
Right.
So when it's faced with stress, like this high salinity, it has to make tough decisions.
Okay.
Like where should it invest those limited resources?
Right, like prioritize.
Exactly. Does
Okay.
it prioritize like growth or defense?
Or maybe something else entirely.
So it's a real balancing act.
Yeah, a delicate balancing act.
What did the researchers find out about how Pasto and Celerio were managing their internal budgets under this stress?
Right. So Pasto, our conservative friend,
Yeah.
seems to invest really heavily in keeping salt out of its leaves.
Okay.
So the plant array data showed that even though it was taking up less water, it maintained a lower concentration of sodium and chloride in its leaves compared to Celerio.
So even though it was in a drought, it was still being picky about what it let in, like quality control over quantity. What about Celerio? Was it just letting everything in?
Not exactly.
Yeah.
So Celerio did have higher salt concentrations in its leaves,
Uh-huh.
but it was also much better at maintaining potassium levels under stress.
Interesting.
And potassium is essential for many plant functions.
Right. How did these different strategies translate to like overall performance?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
So remember how Celerio had that higher water use efficiency?
Yes.
So this efficient use of water, combined with its ability to maintain those potassium levels,
Right.
allowed it to continue growing even under salt stress.
So Celerio like adapt and overcome strategy was really paying off.
Yeah, it seems so.
In the long run, did Pasto's conservative approach have like any benefits at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So Pasto's strategy of minimizing salt uptake and reducing water loss is likely super effective for short-term survival
Okay.
in those highly saline conditions.
So it's like a trade-off.
It is.
Short-term resilience for Pasto, long-term growth for Celerio.
Exactly.
That's cool. It's amazing how this plant array system lets us see these strategies play out in such detail.
It is. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. Okay, so we've been talking about how these two quinoa varieties, Pasto and Celerio, use these different strategies to handle the salt stress.
Yeah.
Right? Celerio seems to embrace like the efficiency, and keeps growing, while Pasto is all about keeping that salt out and conserving water.
Right. And it's interesting because we can actually see these differences like reflected in the plant's physiology.
It seems like both strategies have their own advantages.
They do for sure.
So Pasto's approach is probably very effective for short-term survival, right, in really salty conditions. So by minimizing salt uptake and conserving water, it can like weather those initial shocks.
Right.
And Celerio is focusing on efficiency and maintaining key nutrients so it can keep growing even when things are tough. Research is so exciting because it's not just about observing these differences, right? It's about understanding like the mechanisms behind these strategies.
Yeah.
And we can start thinking about how to translate this knowledge to other crops.
That's the hope.
This has been such a cool deep dive. We learned about this crazy plant array system,
Yeah.
explored plant physiology, and even got a glimpse into the future of sustainable agriculture. It's been a pleasure diving into this research with you.
Likewise.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.